Hello, welcome to It's Sybil. I am Sybil Wilkes, and everybody is back together on this
The boys
day.
are back.
The boys are back. The boys are back. Hey, Damon, how are you?
I am well. I am happy to be back. Glad to see your shining faces and looking
Am I
well.
shiny? I
No,
can't say.
no, no, no. And Cameron's not either because he's kind of like he's in witness protection right
I
now.
know, right?
Um, yeah,
He's in this weird kind of room space where
yeah,
it's like The Room. Remember that movie where the
right.
mother and son? Yes, it's kind of creepy there, Cameron.
Talk about
My,
the dark web.
my bedroom is like in this weird L shape, and there is no way to position my camera to make it look flattering.
Uh,
So
well,
here I
I get it.
am
I get
trying to
it.
center myself, and it still looks like
I
I'm,
get it
I'm,
too because if
yeah.
I tilted this camera either way, y'all be like, oh, because I just dumped my whole suitcase. Look, I just dumped my whole suitcase out. Look, looks good right here though. Keep it right
Keep it
there.
right there, right
Yeah, I've
there.
been on the go for a while, so yeah, got work
Yeah,
to
and
do.
every weekend for me too. I've been out of town, and
Oh,
stuff is just kind of dumped out, and then you just kind of
Yeah,
move it closer to the washing machine and that
right.
kind of stuff.
it'll
So,
get
Yep.
there.
Damon, you have been all over the place. Where you been?
Whew, since I left, since I've seen you all, it's hard to even imagine. Edmonton, Washington, Maryland, and then of course we had a wonderful weekend at Riddles this past weekend, as well as a summit, the Blueprint Men's Summit by Lewis Carr, the BET executive, and his Waymaker magazine, with major people like Fat Joe and
Hmm.
Master P and who else? It was a lot of them. It was amazing. Business leaders,
Was
Dr.
Kanye
Ian.
there?
If he was, he had that thing on, so I didn't see him. Poor Kanye, man.
I can't say that, but okay. Everybody's allowed to have their opinion on that, and maybe that's a good place for us to land at some point today.
Yeah.
Cameron, how are you?
I'm doing well. Kicked off rehearsal, so I'll be. It's a fantastic. Um, it's a fantastic place to be in. I'll be busy for the next 10 months, just working on the stage production of my latest play, Coronary Artery, um, and yeah, between that work and just trying to do art stuff, staying busy.
Well, art
Sweet.
stuff will keep your mind going and keep you busy for sure.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. I appreciate you guys joining us. I have enjoyed just watching you guys on social media and enjoying the things that you guys are putting out there, and also the contribution, Cameron, to the What You Need to Know newsletter. This is our free newsletter. We would like for you to subscribe as we endeavor to super serve the African American community. It is Monday through Friday newsletter. If you go to sybylwilkes.com, you can sign up. And as I mentioned, absolutely free. It'll be in your email box every Monday through Friday morning. Cameron, you talked about Americans being not the only ones feeling the pain of inflation. What does that mean?
Yeah, Sybil. Every time when I encounter a story that I had to kind of dig for concerning acts of resistance,
Hmm.
I get a little skeptical of the situation at home. And little did I know that people around the world have been literally around the entire world. Antarctica is the only continent without it. People who have been protesting inflation and costs of living.
Wow.
These protests have gotten very active in the streets, in Romania, the Czech
Hmm.
Republic, in Germany, in Africa. Fuel. People have been literally fighting over fuel. There was a protest that 25 people were unfortunately killed, including 5 police officers. And the war in Ukraine is just one small facet of this. A lot of it is actually because fuel is purchased in United States dollars,
Hmm.
and now the U.S. dollar is like the top currency because the price of fuel has gone up. So poorer countries have to scrounge up even more money to meet the exchange price. There are workers in Italy who have just resolved to quit their jobs. People have stopped trains, they've stopped buses, teachers have stopped teaching. all because the rent is too damn high, uh, among other things.
To quote a man from American Idol, yeah.
Yes, uh, among other things. And so this just makes me beg the question. I know we had alluded to it on our show here a couple weeks ago when gas prices were at their most extreme levels. I mean, you know, what kind of change would we be able to make, if we all just stopped driving,
Hmm.
or if we all managed to rally? Now, thankfully, Joe Biden did act swiftly and stop the exploitation of gas prices. He promised some kickback to energy con, energy consumers, but
Hmm.
still, I wish there was a way for us to support the efforts of people in other countries, especially because we inspired them in the past with the
Right.
with the movement for Black Lives and so on and so forth.
So I'm not surprised, but certainly this whole inflation thing brought to the end of a career for another female prime minister of Great Britain. After
Right.
44 days, Truss was bounced. She didn't last as long as a head of lettuce, and I'm not surprised, but I am surprised. I thought they might give her a little bit more grace, but desperate times call for desperate measures, and created a historic a historic position for a person of color, their first person of color as Prime Minister of Great Britain, Rishi Sunak, and he's rich. So I'm always curious how rich people respond to economic difficulties of the lower classes, if you
Let
will.
them eat cake.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
probably how they respond.
yeah. And I'm wondering how people of Great Britain are going to respond, because they're talking about how difficult this is, how expensive it is in Europe to buy gas, to pay rent, to buy food, and all of these things are are affected by the Russian war in Ukraine.
Yeah, I'm. It's really, and the thing is that, like, even it's hurting all of us. The rent market in the United States is just obscene. It's to a point where landlords can literally charge you whatever it is that they want to. I have a friend who works for big tech in Silicon Valley. She makes over six figures, but one day her landlord said, "Hey, you know what? We're going to go up 30% on your rent."
That's
And
crazy.
she was like, "Why?" And what he really meant is because I want someone richer than you to live here.
Right.
Uh,
Because I
but
can.
Right, exactly, because there's no laws against it. So I'm really hoping uh, that these people overseas and across the world and in Africa can get some sort of relief. And I'm wondering if Americans have lost their edge, man. We used to do this stuff, but now we order DoorDash.
Well, when you think about cities in Oregon that protested during the latter years of the Trump administration, when you think about people camping outside of Wall Street, Occupy the occupiers, Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Portland, Occupy, and you could add the cities. They were out there. I don't know if they've lost their edge. I don't know that that is the question, or I don't know that that is my answer to your question. Um, but in your asking that question, are you presuming that we have?
Um, no, I think I'm just leveraging it as more of just like a talking point as to
Mhm.
what it is that we can do as a people. And personally, I am hoping that some other ethnic group carries the brunt of it because we black people, we're tired of doing all the work. We're tired of rallying
Well,
people
if
behind
you
us.
people would let Hispanics in, they might do some of the protesting. Uh,
Yeah. Well,
and I say that lightly, but Damon, what do you think?
well, I think the problem with the United States is it's no longer united.
Mm,
And so, by us being so divided and infighting, we can't even deal with our own issues socially, politically, even from a humanitarian standpoint. We're all over the place because
mhm.
it's every man for itself. It's us against them. It's those versus these, and that's not a way that we prospered in the days past. So when we had the war effort after World War II, and then, of course, the Vietnam War protests, we were still a country divided, but we were divided for a common cause, I would say. Now we can't even get along with each other, much less be a force to help people around the world. And that the exchange rate is bananas. Now, if you're a shopper and you're traveling, then it's to our advantage, but you're still taking advantage of other places. I was in Canada, and for us to get the pay that he promised us, the promoter had to add an additional $7,000 to his total in his currency.
Wow.
So we had to give him a kickback basically to make the event work. So that's just an example I witnessed personally. So like you said, it can't be just us because we're already struggling in our own communities, but we also are at the bottom of the totem pole economically. So if the problems exist up top, then it's definitely going to be worse for our people, and our people are the ones that will be out committing crimes and hustling and stealing catalytic converters to feed our families.
Wow.
Yeah. My friend's catalytic converter just got clipped like a couple of days ago.
And that's real. I was in Mexico over the weekend, and not to name drop or anything for a wedding, but and it was just amazing, how inexpensive meals were. Or other items. The vodka and the tequila was not. And I was just looking at the the little pantry area that they have.
Right.
But because one bottle of tequila I remember buying for Tom and paying a lot of money at that time, and it was just as expensive there in Mexico. But as far as having a great omelet and a cup of coffee and orange juice and all that kind of stuff, and paying a really I mean, it was like buying breakfast at IHOP or something. So and you still get people telling you, oh, this is a great time to go to such and such a place, to go to London, because the dollar is very strong there. You're going to, get very far with your money. But like you say, Damon, you don't want to get that far on the backs of others. That's a very selfish way to look at it. And I hope that's not where we're headed.
Yeah, well, the Brits could stand a little backwalk, but because I remember going over there with my little U.S. money, and it was food stamps compared to the pound. So yeah, he owed them a little bit, but they've always had inflationary prices when it comes to fuel in Europe and in the UK. I remember back in the day when we went to Germany, we just saw what they were paying, and in the UK. That's why they had them little bitty cars, because we had our big gas guzzlers, but they all were driving like Honda Civic sized cars back in the day.
Right.
And I guess we're starting to catch up to that. And then I found out also that if we go to electric vehicles, the carbon footprint of creating the batteries and making those cars is just as detrimental as the fuel. So we don't know what the answer is, but we got to take it a day at a time. But I do know that we have to do something. We got to stem the tide, not for us that are doing okay, not great, but okay, but for those beneath that need really help.
Yeah.
And did I hear correctly that even if we're talking about using batteries, that the Russians have the market cornered on the use of certain types of chemicals in order to make these batteries, in addition to the carbon footprint? I think it's lithium that they have and I know that helium is at a very small level here in the United States, but I want to say it's lithium that they have the market cornered on that for our phones and other electric items that we use. So
yeah,
this is a big old deep conundrum we got ourselves into today. So by the way, I was on Sherry Shepherd's show while I was gone. I forgot to mention that.
Okay, that was on my list for a lighter moment here, Damon. But
global economy, man, so interesting.
It really is.
Yeah.
If you want to talk laughs, Donald Trump may be the answer, and that's the story that I did for today's newsletter. And the long-awaited subpoena that was unanimously voted upon by members of the January 6th committee, it finally arrived to Donald Trump's headquarters.
Time to bring him on in.
Yeah. Well, they're trying. They're trying. Somebody sent me a text yesterday, said, "Oh, the Justice Department is going to be making a big announcement. What do you think it'll be?" And I was like, "It's not what we're hoping for." But because Donald Trump has got a lot of things on his plate. And although people are hoping that he will be reeled in, as you said, Khameron, it's moving. Justice moves very slow. The wheels of justice do move very slowly. And that subpoena, it reached Donald Trump on Friday. He has not responded, and they've kind of pushed the date into November, where the deadline for him to respond and to testify before the committee. And it's not likely to be live, but there is a great deal of concern about the longevity of this committee if people do put Republicans back in power. And I'll keep reminding people that putting them back in power in the House, especially, this is a House Select Committee. And the members of the Republican members, the two Republicans that are on this committee, are on their way out. Liz Cheney lost her position. She was roundly and soundly beaten by a Trump Republican in Wyoming, and Kinzinger chose not to run for re-election in Illinois. Not that he could have won, but he had a better chance of winning than Liz Cheney did in the very Republican state of Wyoming. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. And as well as his company is, they're being held to the fire as well. His CFO, his chief financial officer, began the court proceeding on Monday. Jury selection began against the Trump organization, and Alan Weisselberg was the chief financial officer. He's also a government. He's played footsie with the government. He's going to be a government witness. He will not He'll testify against the Trump organization, but not against Donald Trump. And this is a case where they are being charged with tax fraud. The Trump organization, where they offered perks, as they call them, of cars and education for their children and apartments in New York, which is a tiny sum, so that they don't have to pay taxes on them. So this is what the Trump organization is being charged with. And this in addition to what the Sister Attorney General Letitia James is doing. So, and that is to put Donald Trump out of business in the state of New York, as well as his three of his adult children, Don Jr., Ivanka, and Eric. So there's a lot going on. So I don't know if he has time to kind of get his little testimony together. Not that he's really in any big hurry to do this, but that's why it says it's just a long blank, fill in the blank versus Donald Trump, because the line forms here, the line forms there, the line forms down there. All of this goes on. So,
and the bananas part of that is they still will support him regardless, because now it's like the government is attacking him. He'll play victim, and it'll continue his MAGA support.
Right. And the people are asking you to vote in an election that they say could be fraud, and just as fraudulent as what they claim 2020 could be. So if they stay home, this will be interesting to see how it will respond. The vote turnout will be responding to the people who are claiming that, Donald Trump is still president. And like they asked the woman who's running for governor of Arizona, if you win, will you support the outcome of this election, or will you support the outcome of this election? She said, if I win, I will, and if you don't, if I win, I will support the outcome. And I was like,
it's such a shame that has to be like a question now.
Yeah.
Like it makes no sense. But early voting numbers show that Democrats are outnumbering Republicans.
And that's the thing. I don't want Democrats to become complacent, Khameron, because a lot of Republicans historically have shown that they prefer to vote on election day, right? And I don't want Democrats to say, oh, well, they took care of it. No, every vote counts, and everyone has to make sure that their vote is counted and that their voice is heard in this election. So don't depend on someone else. Make a plan, make sure you all get there, and that if there is a difficulty, that you contact the right authorities. And we'll have that information for you too as we get closer.
The difficulty has already surfaced in Arizona. I just noticed that they had to deploy deputies at some of the early voting spots because they're armed protesters and people trying to intimidate folks. So
they're taking pictures of folks, Damon. They're covering up their license plates as they take pictures of people who are dropping off their ballots. It's crazy. It's crazy.
But let them document it. And then if after all of that, they have the evidence that they produce will probably go against their favor to show that it really is not a fraudulent circumstance. Or
Absolutely.
what do we know? This country is it's fishy.
Man, fishy is a good. It stinks. It absolutely stinks. All right, it's time for us to move on. And our question of the day. This was brought about by a question that a group of friends had, and Khameron, I'm not sure. I don't know about this in your family. I think Damon and I are probably on the same page. But do you remember getting whippings as a child? Or some people call them spankings.
Whoopings. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
The
You could take
question,
that I out of there. It was whoopings.
a
Yeah.
whooping, yeah,
Not a
yeah.
whipping.
A
A
whoop.
whooping.
It's a whoop.
'Cause
So
yeah.
we're asking everybody who's watching and listening today, do you remember the worst whooping you ever got?
Yeah.
And what did you do to get this? Or what did the adult who gave you the whooping say you did? And how did you respond? Because I didn't do it, or like my mother whipped me for breaking the crystal on a watch. And I was like, how can what's a crystal? What is, and she's like, you know exactly, you broke my watch. And I was like, how
Right.
could I break something? I don't even know what I broke. She's like,
Oh, sure.
that logic is going to get you nowhere. And then she
None at
proceeded
all.
to whoop, because I think I think I blanked it out. Whatever I did with this watch, I don't remember, but my logic was a bit flawed. I will admit to that. But my mother went to her grave without me ever admitting that, I broke the crystal, even though I didn't. It wasn't crystal; it was plastic, as far as I could tell. So you're gonna blame me for breaking the plastic that you call crystal on
You
the
cracked
watch?
my Timex.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, whatever. So do either of you remember the worst whooping you ever got? Who would like to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. My mom was a disciplinarian in our family. God forbid my father ever put hands on us.
My dad never did.
Yeah. So my mom's big whole thing was lying. That was kind of like her end all be all in stealing too.
Mhm.
So there's this one brand of cookies that that one particular family member who was also a co-host on the It's Sybil show really enjoyed. And my mom got them from Aldi, and then an hour later they were all gone. So my
Ooh.
mom lined us all up and asked us who ate them. No one said anything, and she said that I will give you all a minute to confer before I beat the living hell out of
Get
every
your
last
lies
one of
straight.
you. And so
In
I
other
was at
words.
this age where like I would just take whoopings for my sisters all the time because I
Aw.
hated seeing my mom mad. And so my mom got a little wise to it, and so she gave me a whooping for it. But later on, when it was like my sister's birthday and we were supposed to like spend time with her and like go have fun at like Odyssey Fun World, she kept the older siblings in the car the whole time
Oh no.
while they went to go play games. And so me and my other sister were just waiting for this person to admit their gluttonous behavior. But to this day, she will take it to the grave.
Wow.
Yeah. My mom had to
Jeez.
get very creative.
I'll say. Yeah. And how many of you were there?
It was 4 of us.
Yeah.
And was it summertime?
Yeah.
Yeah. And a hot car.
Yeah. So we were just sitting there, just like baking.
Right.
It was
Right.
It was a
And
lot.
you couldn't kind of sneak the window down to crack a little layer in there. No.
Yeah, it was a
That's
tough time.
painful. That's painful.
Yeah.
Damon,
I'm glad you didn't tell that story while you were still a kid, because they probably come and get your mother.
She raised us well. We're good kids.
Yeah, it was,
Okay.
but
But
I have a couple of them, but the one that's best for this forum would be the time that I actually was guilty of vandalizing our neighbor's house because their son had done some things to us, and we was like, okay, I don't know why we took it out on their house, but the father the father saw us, or somebody told him. He claimed he saw us, and I know he didn't see us, but he told my dad, who wasn't my dad, turns out later.
Okay, this is gonna take some time on a therapist's couch.
I've been through it already. But I knew he wasn't my dad because he was fat, and that's what plays into this story.
You all are
so let's start with, look at me. How can I have a fat daddy? Every time he came to the school, who daddy is that? I'm like, not mine. I don't care what they say. Anyway, the man told Willie, who was my dad, that we had vandalized the house, and he said, did you see him do it? And the man said, yeah, I did. And he didn't. And I'm like, you gonna believe this dude? He's lying. And he just took his belt off and whacked me, right? So now I'm running down the block, and my friends could see me get whooped. But the problem was I couldn't outrun the belt because he was so fat, so his belt was long.
Belts.
My daddy's belt would have never reached me. My real old fat Willie belt had length. That's why I'll never forget that one.
That is hilarious.
And that is actually a true story.
So those are our I'm told, I don't remember this, but one of the worst was one of my earliest. I was not quite 3, and I was hanging outside with the kids on the block, and the Hughes kids lived next door. And so they were supposed to be watching me. And while my mom was inside, my dad was working that day at the firehouse. And I borrowed another child's tricycle, and I rode 2 blocks to the corner store. I rode into the store. I took a box of Cheez-Its because they were my mom's favorites, and I rode back home. And all of the kids, they still hadn't seen me, leave or come back. I went into the house and I gave the Cheez-Its to my mom. And so my mom was like, when did you all go to the store? And I was like, I just came back. And so she was headed out. The kids were headed in, and I was standing there at my mom's side. And they said, "Oh my God, she's inside!" And she's like, "She just went to the store with you all." And it's like, "No, we didn't go. We couldn't find her." And she realized and started to put this all together, that I had stolen. My life of crime had begun. I borrowed a tricycle. I went in and picked up a box of Cheez-Its for my mom. And she was so angry that they had to call my dad at the firehouse to come home and get his wife off of his child, because they thought that she would kill me. And that is, and then my mom had, and what was, so your stepfather's weapon of choice, if we can call it that, Damon, was his belt. My mom's was a yardstick from the classroom.
Okay.
Yeah, like the nuns.
Like the nuns.
The nuns used to hit us with the yardstick or the pointer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Frustrated.
Across the knuckles. Yeah.
Yep. And we used to keep the yardstick in the hall closet with the linens and things. And many a time I would just remove it, just because in the event that something else happened, she wouldn't be able to find it quite so quickly. But then she would, find them in various places. So
I also tried to hide my mom's assortment of belts once. It was a very futile gesture.
Yeah.
Yeah, Richard Pryor said he used to pull over and snatch out tree saplings because he remembered getting hit with switch. He's like, "You won't grow up to so whoop another person."
That was another whipping. That was another one, Damon.
Yeah,
I swear, we were going I had an appointment with the doctor, the pediatrician. And my mother was saying, and I was scraping along because I just like the sound of, my scraping feet on the ground. Shh, shh, shh. Sybil, stop scraping your foot. Shh. Shh, shh. Sybil, stop scraping your feet. Shh, 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 shh. And with one fell swoop, my mother opened the back door, pushed me in the back seat, grabbed a switch off a tree in the parking lot with the other hand, and commenced. She had to call and cancel the doctor's appointment because if they did a physical, they really would have put her in jail, because I had all of the whelps from the switch.
Who thought of this question the other day?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But look at you now.
Yeah,
See?
yeah. I'm a fine,
Whippings
upstanding
work.
adult who doesn't
Yeah.
go near trees, who
Right.
does not even go near Cheez-Its.
And won't go in
I
a fabric store because they got yardsticks.
exactly. I break out in sweat when I see that. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
times have certainly changed around the culture of it, and I have, in my lived experience, I've come to surmise that there are two kinds of kids. Like, there are kids who got whooped and like understood why, and then there are
Mhm.
kids who got whooped and who just like cognitively like did not understand why.
Didn't get it.
They can turn out either way, but
Right.
there are just like some really different kinds of folks.
That is the truth. That is
Yep.
the truth. Yolanda, we got a little time. Helga Roper on YouTube says, "Don't know what I did, but I made the mistake and
Sure, yes,
grab
the
the
ultimate act
belt."
of defiance.
Yeah, that
Yeah, you
that
never grab
is
the
it.
weapon.
Let go before I take. Oh yeah, I'm having flashbacks, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me. Let's go to Barbara Ferguson. She says on YouTube, I was told to go to her friend's house to pick up a plant, and I said no, and went outside to jump rope. She came outside and whooped me with the extension cord I was jumping with. I went and got the plant. I bet you did. I bet
Yeah.
you did. What provoked you to
Yikes.
say no?
Yeah, we don't do that in our
Man,
community.
Darlitha Rhodes on YouTube says, I talked back and got the worst whipping. We weren't allowed to express ourselves. I know that's right,
No,
Darlitha.
you have no opinion until you
Not-
paying bills around here.
Not in my house. I express your opinions. Okay. Yolanda, Candace Holmes on YouTube said, working in the garden with my parents and my smart mouth got me in trouble. My dad pulled a corn stalk out of the ground and beat me with it. Not painful, but extremely funny. I laughed about it later. I'm glad you could see the humor in that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
did he whip you with the corn or did he whip you with the stalk?
It's-
Because the stalk might have hurt. I'm just
depending
thinking
on where
of,
it kind of catches. Yeah.
yeah. And those things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good thing they weren't growing pineapples.
Which soon became a safe word.
And if it's upside down, you're a swinger.
Forget
Anyway.
about it. Darlitha Rhodes, Sybil won't even sit under a tree. That's right. Trees do not grow where I'm around. You're absolutely. Donna Ferrar says, smart, sweet Sybil. I guess that's why you are who you are today. Just lovely and not trying to create trouble for nobody. Thank you, darling. Kansas home stock, corn and all. Yep. I got it. Candace, on YouTube. That was the visual I had. Oh, that was funny. That is a funny visual. Khameron, what was the favorite cookie, by the way, of your sibling?
Yeah, it was like Matt's cookies from Aldi's. They're like the perfect blend of like firm and chewy. And it was my sister's birthday, which is in the winter, and so the car was not out in the heat; it was in the cold. So there we go.
Yeah.
Good.
That's it.
But that could be worse if she ain't leave the car on.
No, the car was still left to the elements.
That is funny.
And look, I was thinking about our age difference because I swore he was about to say Archway cookies or Salerno's.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's right. Famous Amos and Matt's cookies. Okay. So Yolanda, do we have people who have more memories of the worst whooping you ever got?
I thought about this often, of whether or not I would like whoop my kids. Part of me like seriously wants to, because kids are just so smart at like such a younger age now, and it's just time to bring back swift justice. But I got to see like what kind of kid my kid is first. Either they're this is what I do wrong, ergo whooping, or this is just painful, Dad. Why did you do this? So
that was the question I was going to ask Damon, because he is the parent amongst us and is one who has had a good whipping or two. What about with your kids, Damon?
I only had to whip my son once, and that was because his mother made me do it.
Always the mama making you do it.
And when I tell you the whole "this is going to hurt me as much as it's going to hurt you" was a true statement, because she's like, he's lying and you need to go in there and whip him. I'm like, yeah, but look at me. extension cord came out of nowhere. Yeah. But I'm like, I don't subscribe to that because, I felt like I know there were times, at least once, when I got whipped for something that I actually did not do. So I was empathetic, but it was a lazy whipping, but it hurt me, for a while. But I always had a good relationship with my son where I could talk to him, and he was always able to talk back to me. And I don't know how we developed that bond, but even as he got to high school at Morgan Park Academy, there was a circumstance with a certain NBA athlete's daughter who was wilding out of control, who lives in Chicago. I'm not going to say his name, but there are a couple of threes on his shirt. Anyway, she was wilding out on homecoming and drank too much. And she was a freshman and with the seniors. And she got pissy drunk, but my son admitted the whole story when I got there. He even kept the bottle as evidence because our fingerprints were on it. This is how he was thinking ahead.
Wow.
But he actually owned up to it because she was passing out all over the school and they thought she was on something, but they was like, no, she's drunk. She had too many drinks.
Wow.
But when I got to the school, he said, Pops, he called me. He was like, I'm in trouble. I messed up. And for him to, still have that bond and to be able to, own up. And that's what the first thing the headmaster said, your son was the only one who stepped forward, blah, 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 blah. I think my parenting skills worked in that regard.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure he wouldn't have called his mother.
Yeah, for sure.
Because she was more heavy-handed, so to speak. So luckily, he and I had that relationship. So I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but there are times when you have to at least show your kids they mean business. But we think we have this complete dominion over our children just because we're parents. And if your bond is not proper, they're just going to do mischief again, especially after they realize a whipping only hurt for so long.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I would much rather get a whipping than
have your privileges taken.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's move to our trending topics. This something that we have been looking at on the What You Need to Know newsletter for quite a while. And I thought you might cover this today, Khameron, but it's kind of evolving as the day goes on. Brittany Griner entered her appeal to the Russian court regarding the 9-year sentence and the whole drug thing, finding drugs in her luggage as she was coming to Russia to play basketball. She lost her appeal, and now it was announced this evening that they were looking for a reduced sentence, not the 9 years that they gave her after the drug smuggling conviction. She is now being sent to a penal colony.
A gulag, dude. That is rough.
So what does that look like at a penal colony? And then I was going to make a very poor joke, but
it's right there.
No, you can't do that. So what do you know about penal colonies, Khameron?
So I haven't done a lot of research into what Russian prisons look like. I know that globally as a whole, European prison system is just a bit more well kept than the American prison system. However, this is Soviet Russia,
right?
So she will definitely be doing some labor,
hard
labor.
They'll
definitely be profiting off of her labor. It is an absolute travesty.
So check this out. In one article that I found, it says that she fears facing inhumane treatment at Russia's penal colonies where abuse is common, disease is rampant, and labor is forced. As they have denied her appeal, and there's still talk of a prisoner swap. But in the meantime, she's being sent to one of their infamous penal colonies, and she is fearful of this. I guess they gave her advance warning that this could happen, and it's like one of those old movies you would see of a penal colony. For some reason, I'm thinking of Dustin Hoffman or somebody in one of those with a prisoner of war camp is actually what I have in my mind. I'm not sure, but I really hope that they get her out of there soon.
Yeah, it's been a year, right?
And it's so unfortunate for the punishment doesn't match the crime at all. So, and who knows if that's a political pawn that they're keeping her as, but
Without a
it's
doubt.
sad. It's because I had jokes earlier, but now that it's it's confirmed that she may do this hard time for these so many years. There's nothing
Yeah.
funny about it, and we definitely need to try to work on getting her out of there. It's so sad. It's sad. That's very sad.
It is sad. It is very sad. Of course, they said that her birthday came and went. She's been in there since February. So now we're looking at least 6 months, 7 months that she's been there. And since she's had her highs and lows, but of course, not being able to communicate, being told that you cannot, being kept in a cage, literally in a cage. And that also can play a part with your mental stability and people talking at you, and they're not being nice and playing tricks with your mind and what have you. That is a mental and physical cruelty.
Yeah, and she's lucky they may, with the startling
Yeah.
number of Russians defecting from the military, they might
Yep.
try to put her in a uniform.
They very well could, Damon, and that would lead to more dire circumstances than we could possibly imagine. The president took another booster to the coronavirus before warning of possible triple-demic cases of COVID, flu, and RSV. Have you heard about RSV, especially as it's affecting our children? All expected to increase. Flu and other infections return as COVID cases rise. Flu cases are higher than usual for this time of year, and as they have been during the rise of COVID-19. And this time of year, and expected to soar in the next coming weeks. The third virus is RSV, is straining pediatric hospitals in some states. And just to see the stories of the poor babies who are having difficulty breathing, and it is a type of virus that just. And the thing that really gets me is that with children who can't express themselves, you just see them having difficulty breathing, and the parents are just like, they're feeling very helpless. And
we had RSV here. Our little baby Ava had RSV for a little while.
really,
Yeah, it came to the house because one of her classmates at her daycare had it, and she had symptoms as well, so she had to be treated.
and so Damon, what did she suffer long, or were they able to do it in a quick fashion?
Yeah, it was a matter of a few days, but she was coughing and crying and going through it. Yeah, so
Yeah,
but it was
is
a few days. But yeah, and I'd never heard of that before. And then
Mhm.
after she was diagnosed with that, then I started hearing about it on the news. I'm like, wow.
Right. We are in the wake of two horrific shootings. One here in Dallas area. The man who allegedly shot and killed two Dallas hospital employees was in the building to watch his child's birth. He had been in prison for 6 years. They had allowed him to go to attend the birth. No ankle monitoring or anything. The man who allegedly shot and killed two of the hospital employees in the maternity ward at the Dallas Methodist Hospital was in the building to attend the birth of his child. The Methodist Health System family, heartbroken at the loss of two of our beloved team members, said the statement. Our entire organization is grieving this unimaginable tragedy. The Dallas Police Chief, Eddie Garcia, identified the victims as members of as hospital employees, Jacqueline Pakua, who was 45, and Katie Flowers, who was 63. The shooter has been identified as Nestor Hernandez. He was arrested and is facing capital murder charges after authorities say he shot and killed the two employees at the Methodist Dallas Medical Center. Police responded over the weekend on Saturday morning at about 11 o'clock after receiving reports of an active shooting. How did he get this? How did he get the guns into the hospital is the question. He was on parole for aggravated robbery. He was wearing an active ankle monitor. He was given permission to be at the hospital while his significant other gave birth. And apparently he was in the room with the mother, and he said, one or both of us are going to die today. And whoever comes through that door next is also going to pay the price. They said he'd been acting strangely prior to the shooting, accusing his girlfriend of infidelity. And after accusing her of cheating, He began searching the closet and bathroom for somebody else who may have been in the room. He produced a weapon from his pants, struck his girlfriend multiple times in the head, and then sat at a couch, allegedly told his girlfriend, "We're both going to die today. And whoever comes in this room, as I said, is going to die with us." They heard the shots, and the hospital policeman managed to injure him in the hallway. This is just the saddest thing. That, and because here you are at the beginning of the life of your child, and this is where he is at this very special moment, obviously, and then he's there to end the lives of people.
Sad, and that's at Texas and the guns. That's how it's so easy to get guns in Texas. The open carry, no background check, 18 and older. From what I hear, you can just might as well go up to Walgreens and pick yourself up a gun. You know, and that's a tragic scenario, and it's scary for people that aren't residents that travel into the state of Texas. As we travel, you know, you can't fly with a gun, or I know I can't. So when I come to town, I'm gonna sit and duck because everybody got guns. So
exactly. Well, you can go get a no. You can't tell me that I can go get a gun to defend myself, and then you got a 16 or an 18-year-old who can go and get and not be of clear mind, which is obviously the situation that happened at the high school in St. Louis.
Yeah, that was wild. Yeah, predominantly black high school.
Yeah, and the young girl who was killed was 15 years old, a 10th grader. She was killed along with the physical education teacher. Her name was Alexandria Bell. She was 15, a 10th grader, and 61-year-old physical education teacher Jean Kutska. The 7 other victims, all 15 or 16 years old, were injured and hospitalized, listed in stable condition today. The gunman has been identified as Orlando Harris. He had 600 rounds of ammunition and left behind a note. The police said that this was a perfect storm for a mass shooter. He used an AR-15 style rifle that appeared to have more than the 600 rounds of ammunition, according to the police commissioner. He had a note in which he lamented that he had no friends, no family, never had a girlfriend, and a life of isolation. And as I mentioned, the police commissioner called it the perfect storm for a mass shooter, someone with a serious mental health issue, as well as the ability to have contact and have this AR-15 and 600 rounds of ammo for this.
That never had a girlfriend part is like very important, because research is indicating that, and this is like a so serious point, that the number of men under 30 who are still virgins has almost like doubled. And so there are still men out here who qualify their existence and their manhood by their ability to court the female species.
Right.
And that cultivates an insecurity and depression across the entire, male species.
Yep.
Sad.
That is sad. And, not to make light of this, Khameron, obviously we don't mean to, but I remember on the Joyner show, and there was talk about, I'm not sure if it was Columbine or another one of those high school shootings, where they were talking about they never had a girlfriend, or girls wouldn't talk to them, or never gave them the time of day. And I think it was Jay and George Wallace came up with an idea of how to start a dating service for these kids who thought that they, couldn't get any. And so, they thought that they would, this would be a way to save lives.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, Khameron, with the statistics that you give and the sad situations, lives could be saved if we could just reach out to these people and let them know that they're worthy and that, they can be loved.
Yeah, we need some type of site for this, because sleep with a weirdo. Nerds need love too. Something.
And we'll get you out of jail or something. I don't know, Damon, but if we could save lives,
you out of jail.
I don't know. But this is positively tragic.
No, but that's a problem.
Yep.
The isolation and the social rejection and the frustration, because if I don't get something after a couple of weeks, I'm ready to slap somebody.
So just
I can imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know when it's. Oh, yes, I do. I'm about to say I don't know when the last time it's been that long, but yeah, I do remember.
And you appear to be getting a little fidgety now. So we're going to move on to entertainment.
All right, baby.
Christmas is 2
Come save a life.
Woman. Christmas is now 2 months away, and what to get that sports fan that has everything? Neiman Marcus suggests a 2-on-2 game against Scottie Pippen and Scottie Jr. It's in its Christmas catalog. Neiman Marcus is selling the 2-on-2 game against Scottie Pippen and Scottie Pippen Jr. in its Christmas catalog for the very low price of give me a guess on how much you think they would charge people to play you two. So if I wanted to give you two a gift, and you two, and you see Damon's wearing the Bulls shirt, and I know your mom was a Michael Jordan fan, Khameron. So let's just give me a wild guess. How much do you think they would charge the two of you to play? To buy? How many?
25,000.
Okay, to multiply that.
50.
Keep going.
100,000.
Triple that.
No way. Not even worth it.
Well, $333,333.
Do I get to win my money back?
I know one thing. If they want
Mr. Threes.
If they want his daughter to join, all they need to bring is vodka. How ironic that you brought up that name, because that's exactly who it was.
I didn't make any comments, but I could also she was very notorious.
I know you know.
Yep, shooting up threes there. This is in the 2022 Neiman Marcus Christmas catalog. 2-on-2 scrimmage with the Pippins is listed as the ultimate sports experience. I'm sorry, there got to be a number of women that were with Wilt Chamberlain that could claim that. But I don't think whoever purchases this experience will get to bring a friend out to Los Angeles for a full experience with father and son.
Wow.
Thanks to Neiman Marcus concrete runway and talent resources sports, it's your turn and a friend's turn to play against this dynamic father and son duo. Any takers?
How much to play against Randy Brown and his son?
For the Currys.
Let's ratchet this down a bit.
Oh dear God.
BJ Armstrong and his daughter. How much for that?
How about that? And get an agent in the process.
Right. Exactly.
Good night. How crazy is that? $333,333.
Yeah, I'll wait for the Black
some
Friday
wealthy taker
on that one.
Is there anyone out there? We're going to end with our today's inspiration from Yogi's Jewel. Good friendships can make hard times bearable. Like if you blow $333,000, somebody will say, not that bad. But then there's somebody like me going, are you out of your mind? But good friendships can make hard times bearable. Thank you for your friendships, guys. I appreciate it. And everyone, have a great evening. We'll talk to you guys soon. Be careful out there on the road, Damon.
I shall. Thank you.